And we are live once again. Hockey Books and Storytellers coming to you from Mission Control in Mission, British Columbia. I'm Jerry Teabag Hack with my cohort, Greg Tone Reedy. How you doing,
How are
Tone?
you, fella?
Yeah, I'm doing good. And I was thinking you probably your whole life have never used the word spadoinkle.
Spadoinkle.
Spadoinkle is the word of the day. I heard it on a podcast. The guy used the word spadoinkle, and I had to look it up. It means kind of like pleasantly surprised, an unexpected pleasant surprise.
A badoinkle?
Spadoinkle.
Badoinkle. Wow.
Yeah. So goings on in the NHL. It is Hockey Books and Storytellers. Canucks off to a slow start. Edmonton off to a slow start again. You were talking about their first meeting is going to be what? What date?
Saturday, November 9th on Hockey Night in
Saturday,
Canada.
November 9th. And I was thinking after both teams got off to such a slow start that it was going to be a turtle derby. But I think Edmonton got it turned around in fairly quick order. Canucks have looked better after a dismal performance in Tampa Bay. They beat the Florida Panthers in overtime, and then last night they beat Philadelphia 3-0. Good workmanlike performance. Canucks were definitely the better team, but Philadelphia hit like 4 posts and crossbars, so it was by no means a dominating performance. And the Oilers got Ottingered.
Oh, jeez. That was it. I wasn't able to see all of it, but I mean, our defense is in tough right now. I mean, you can't lose Broberg, separate story. Broberg, Desharnais, and Cody Ceci, and think that, and replace it with shorter, slower, smaller defensemen, and think that you're going to be strong on the back end. It's going to be tough. I mean, in hindsight, maybe you keep Broberg. I mean, I think he's going to turn out to be probably a fairly elite. He'll be a first line defenseman, but we're going to be in tough for the run. The trade deadline can't come soon enough, and for us to trade and upgrade, it's gonna cost us. I mean, we'll have the cap space, but we don't have a lot of chips to trade. Not a lot in the as far as draft capital to trade. So
yeah, I was watching nervous. And I can't remember exactly what happened. The other team went after somebody, and Troy Stetcher had to step in, and and as game as he might be, he's a little bit too small to be in the enforcer role. He's
you think, and Perry went at it with Farabee as well, and I mean that game was a nice little, I think, turning point for the team. Just some energy. And I mean, we were playing Philadelphia. I love the way Philadelphia is playing right now. I think Torts is going to have. I think Philadelphia is going to have a heck of a year. But it was good to see Stetcher step up and just create some presence and some care factor that I think.
He's a team guy, always has been. Is there for his teammates, even though he's always down on the depth chart. He's a serviceable NHL defenseman, but he's never going to be top 4. He's going to be bottom 2 pairing and maybe even 6 or 7. So he, but he can move the puck, and he's he's not a liability out there in any event. And I always liked him. Local kid, made good, and it reminded me of Brian Rafalski. Kind of a not as talented, not as much of a point producer, but he plays a similar game. Good speed, can rush the puck, can move the puck. So always liked him.
The Oilers are going to be in tough. I mean, they just, and I was thinking, Connor is so cerebral, and I was watching the Amazon stuff on last year's playoffs, and I mean, I loved seeing Connor's emotion. I loved love that he lost his mind, and but I think there's also I wonder how loose that dressing room is, and I think you have to have that balance. He's not the loose personality guy, whereas I think you looked into that Florida room, and yeah, they had that was their second kick at that experience, but they just seemed a little bit looser and a little bit more relaxed, and I think I think Edmonton very easily gets in its own head, and emotionally, I think they might be in tough to kind of swing this around because I you think of last year and comparatively speaking, we're we're kind of getting there. You can't get into 10 games down the way that we did last year, so um,
Mhm.
it's
No doubt.
it's it's.
Okay.
You want to
Okay.
move on?
Well, where did we find this producer? Because he's just terrible. We got a producer hit that stupid intro. That picture of the Stanley Cup, you and a bunch of people, or your brothers and your dad, are there with the Stanley. Who's holding the Stanley Cup?
Billy Ranford.
Is that Ranford? Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't recognize him.
Artie Art was Blackheart was working at that garage as the lead mechanic, and Billy lives in New West and was good friends with the owner. So he brought the cup that day, and Artie let us know. So we all went down there. And Arnie was with us as well. But AQ was it was a great call to get. And if yeah,
did you touch the cup?
oh yeah, like held it and stuff like that. And Brock will be a life regret not putting it out, like lifting it up. But apparently the rule is that if you haven't won the cup, they don't want you to. They don't.
You're
I
not
mean,
supposed to touch it. No.
well, you're not supposed to like raise it above.
Oh.
And
Okay.
so when they on the day with the cup, they don't. They're. I guess they kind of frown on that for whatever reason. But
On ESPN, I think it was the analysts are Mark Messier and PK Subban, and Subban has never won the cup, and Messier so Messier's running after him with it, like trying to get him to touch the cup, and Subban's running away. No, I ain't touching it. I ain't touching it.
You know, do you how do you feel about that lineup? I'm not a. I don't think Mess is very good. I love Mess. He's my guy, but I don't watch the three of them. I don't enjoy it.
No, Subban is good. He's very over the top, big personality. But Messier is just no, he doesn't quite have what it takes to be an analyst. He doesn't have the personality, and you can tell it's forced. He's forcing it, and no, I don't. The ESPN host there, I can't remember his name, but he's good. He's really good. So
yeah. He's quick. Like Mess just doesn't seem like sharp. Forced is a good way to put that. But
no.
I mean, Mess could sit around a table and talk hockey and shoot the shit but it's like when the camera goes on, he just gets a little
tight.
stiff.
Yeah.
Speaking of the cup, hold on, I'm just on the new morning Sportsnet show that Friedman and what's his face left, Jeff Merrick. Those guys,
31 thoughts.
Yeah, but it's that morning show now. God, where is it here? So they had this guy on. He's from Calgary. What's his name? Just find it. Colin Patterson. Won the cup with Calgary in '89.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And was telling the story of how the whole cup thing came to be, that no one had access to the cup the way they get a couple of days with the cup now, but that wasn't the case in '89. And the security guy for the cup that day, Colin said he asked him, "Hey, listen, is it possible if I could bring the cup to my parents' place?" It was somewhere back east, and they were around that area. And the guy said, "No, it's just everything that's happened and the old Bruin Inn and all the dents and dings that the Oilers had put in it over 4 years." But do you guys know what that feels like? No, not. I guess not yet, right? But maybe you will. Maybe you'll know what that. So
this is the year.
So the fella now with the long hair, gray hair, he was still. So he said, "Well, where do you?" He came and tapped Colin on the shoulder and said, "Well, where do your parents live?" And mentioned
Phil
the place.
Pritchard. Yeah.
Yes.
Phil Pritchard. Yeah.
And he said, "Hey, listen, I'll bring it by tomorrow morning." So he ended up being the first one to come by or have the cup for the day. And Pritchard showed up in his Toyota Tercel, and the Stanley Cup was wrapped up in bubble wrap just in the back seat. And he just arbitrarily made that call. And then from that point on, that's how the day with the cup started.
Everybody gets the cup for a day. Huh. Interesting. My favorite picture of the cup for a day is Scott Niedermayer, who took it on top of a mountain and held it up over his head, and you can just see the mountain range in the distance. And yeah, it just looks so cool. Gives me goosebumps when I think of that, because Niedermayers are from here. They're from BC. So
and he was up there. He won it with his brother. His brother was on that team in Anaheim, right?
Oh, in Anaheim, yeah. And they actually, a couple of years prior, had played against each other for the cup, and New Jersey won. And so that's a big reason why Niedermayer went to the same team that his brother was on, so they get him a cup.
Who was the goalie? Won the didn't he win?
On Sebastian Jaguar. Yeah. He one of the few goalies who's won playing for the losing team. Him, Hextall, Glenn Hall. I'm not sure there's been a player who's won it for a non-winning team.
Connor and Reggie Leach.
Oh, right. Yeah, Connor. Yes, Reggie Leach. Right. Yeah. So, yeah, and that year that Jaguar won it, I mean, he was just unconscious. But that was the most boring Stanley Cup final ever. Two trap teams going at it, and it just it was like watching grass grow. I just I couldn't stand it.
Babs
was unwatchable.
Babs was coaching Anaheim. Do you remember who was coaching New Jersey?
At the time, was it Jacques Lemaire?
Ooh, I think that.
Or Larry Robinson. Because Larry Robinson took over late in the year one year. It was a big surprise, and he guided them to a cup. But Jacques Lemaire, I always said, like when Jacques Lemaire was coaching, I said, can somebody please promote him to president or something? Because just get him out of the game, because he's ruining the game with this trap. Just like, it was so boring to watch. And of course, he had success with it, so everybody's emulating it, right? And just like, it's a copycat league, and they, so all of a sudden all these other teams are playing the trap, and it just absolutely took the life out of the game.
It's come a long way.
Yes, it has. It's very exciting now. Like, man, it's so fast. Like, you almost can't keep track, because everything happens so quick, and then I have a theory that it's time to take the referees off the ice and put them in the stands. Leave the linesmen to call the offsides, and even though that's they don't even need to do that anymore because everything's reviewed, but to break up the fights and make sure everything. But take the referees off the ice, because they're just too close to the action. They cannot see everything, and then have them be able to call even retroactive penalties, because so much gets missed, and you want a certain amount of human element in the game, but with today's technology, it's it's kind of hampering, because they can absolutely affect the outcome of the game, because missed calls or mistaken calls, like they think they see one thing. And I can attest, having been a referee, two referees can look at the exact same play and see it completely different, so
Yeah.
I am a firm believer that at least worth a try to take the referees off the ice and have them in the stands, or an advantage point that they can, they get more of a 30,000 foot view of it, right?
My first instinct would be that it would slow the game down, because I don't think refereeing or umpiring or anything should be a perfect science, other than maybe balls and strikes. But I don't know if there's a perfect science. And just, would they end up calling more, and would that slow the game down?
Yeah,
Like,
it's a tough call, but
you could be playing shorthanded the
I'm
entire
not
game.
saying have computers call the penalties. I'm saying have the referees there, but just not on the ice, and so, the
So,
like the linesman can be on the ice, and they'll have earpieces or something, and the referee will say, okay, penalty, and then, and because I think it's easier to see from a distance, like you're just too close to the action, and everything happens just too quick to really be an effective referee. Anybody, like, there's just, even the best of the best are probably maybe, 60-65% correct in their calls, like I gotta believe, smarter people than me should be figuring that one out. But I always thought, in the last 5 years, it's time to get, a change in the refereeing system, because it's just not working.
I could see maybe a high. I don't know if regular C. I mean, it'd be worth a shot. Tried in the A. I think that if they were to be able to call everything, most of the game there would be a team playing shorthanded. I would bet the amount
Yeah.
of 5-on-5 would go down. But I like the idea of having, in the playoffs, having a view and having a call down. You think of that, having Toronto in the ear, and they still miss calls that should be called. Things like that I could see being really valuable, certainly in the playoffs for sure.
Okay, we've come to the end of our time. It's now time for rapid fire. You ready?
Oh yeah, sure.
Hey, you've been thinking about this all the last 2 weeks. I know for sure. Okay.
Rapid fire.
Okay. Okay, I'm ready. Are you ready?
You got all your years right?
Yep, I think
Okay.
so. I need a fact checker. So, okay. According to Pink Floyd, what can't you have if you don't eat your meat?
Pudding. Figgy pudding.
Name a Quentin Tarantino movie that Samuel L. Jackson does not appear in.
Pass.
Reservoir Dogs, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Inglourious Bastards, he was the narrator, Death Proof, and Kill Bill Volume 1. Although Kill Bill Volume 1 and Volume 2, Quentin Tarantino considers one movie in two parts. But
Correct.
I digress. True or false? You make mustard from mustard seeds.
False.
True. What musical artist released the album Gossip in the Grain in 2008?
Ray LaMontagne.
Yes. In what country will you find the Wailing Wall, also known as the Western Wall?
Ireland.
Israel. Born on this day in 1931, nicknamed the Mick, he played his entire 17-year career with the New York Yankees.
Oh, Mickey Mantle.
In the movie The Martian, what 70s TV character does Matt Damon's character pose as when he's asked for a picture?
I'm going to say Mork.
Fonzie. The Fonz. What is a word or phrase that reads the same, backwards or forwards?
Pass.
Palindrome. What city is known as the City of Lights?
Vegas.
Paris, France. One of the few Oilers scoring records that Wayne Gretzky does not own is the team record for 5 points in a period. 2 players share the record. One is Yuri Curry. Can you name the other one?
I'm going to say Sam Gagner.
Yes. Sam Gagner played for both the Canucks and the Oilers and played for the Oilers on 3 separate occasions.
What a teammate. What a guy.
Yeah. And played up till last year. He's a free agent now, so.
Yeah, he's done.
Okay, you got the music of the week?
I don't have anything specifically other than right there. A couple of things. October 17th, 7 years ago, we lost Gord Downie. So I've got a friend of mine. We always get together and we tell each other about the time we met. We each met Gord Downie one time, and so it's drink a glass, tip a glass, have a drink for the old boy. So miss him big time.
I watched part 1 of that. What's it called? No Dress Rehearsal, and yeah, very good. I actually. I had never seen Davis Manning before, and they actually interviewed him. He's recently passed away, so the first episode is dedicated to him. But yeah, interesting cat. It's like so the one ex-member of the Tragically Hip, and they did not end on good terms, and he said that was regrettable. But anyway, the book of the week is this one in honor of Mental Health Month coming up in November. We're going to interview Jeff Gould for one of the November episodes, A Life Concussed, a memoriam of brain injury, addiction, and homelessness. And my God, Tone, does this guy have a story to tell? He has lived a life like you would not believe. He went to some very, very dark places and somehow managed to come out the other side. So if you want to do a little bit of research for our episode in November for Mental Health Month, read this book because it is an amazing read and yeah, not too long. Only takes a few hours to get through it. And wow, I can't wait to hear this guy tell us his story.
Good stuff.
All right, that's all we got. We'll get on to the part 2 of Mike Bloski. He's talking more about his pro career, and we dive into our experiences and being affected by cancer. So I'm sure you'll enjoy this. So we'll see you in a couple of weeks, right, Tone?
You got her. Take care. Love you.
Love you too, buddy, and try to use the word spadoinkle sometime. All right, enjoy the interview, everybody. Okay, if people who watched our last video will recognize our guest again this week, we thought we'd have Michael on because that a special reason that will become apparent a little bit later on. But we had a request, Mike, for you to go a little deeper dive into your pro career that started in Utica. You have a fan in Utica who watched you play. So
wow,
he'd like to hear a couple more stories about your time in Utica. Well, so can you think of any?
I have this one crazy story.
And what was the team called?
Mohawk Valley Stars. Then.
Oh, is this them?
Nope, that's Kalamazoo K-Wings.
Kalamazoo, okay, but that's you on the left, right?
Yeah, Barry Shelley on his thing had a picture of my Utica days on his Rink of Dreams. Okay. But okay, yeah. I'll tell you.
Sorry, let me just ask one question. Who is the other goalie in this picture?
George Gagnon. And he was one of those guys. Oh, I shouldn't say that. I should say it in private. he was not a nice teammate.
No.
No. Like he was a guy that, and he was good. Like he was good. he was a guy that was not under an NHL contract, but the K-Wings had him under contract, and he was like solid. Nobody was going to take his spot, and they liked it like that, eh? That they didn't have to worry about their number one goalie being called up and stuff. But he was just a hey, George, if you're out there, you were a dick.
We got a caller here. Go ahead, caller.
It's George. Nice to hear from you.
George from Kalamazoo.
Yeah. So go ahead with your crazy story about
Crazy
Utica.
story. So we're leaving Utica, and like the road trips in that East Coast League back then were crazy. Like, man, you'd play 7 games in 7 nights, and 3 of those were on the road, you know? Like they had some pretty crazy scheduling. But anyway, so we're going down to Roanoke, Virginia, Spruce Pine, North Carolina. And we're stopping at this sort of truck stop restaurant, and it started to snow a bit. And our bus driver, Andy Whitby, he was a crazy guy, but good guy, good bus driver. And he'd actually played a bit of hockey in his day himself. But anyways, he's walking back to the bus, and it all of a sudden it dumped like about a foot of snow there, and it was slushy. And this, I don't know what this lady was doing, but she goes to drive past him up this, like into the parking lot, and there's a row of cars, and her car just fishtails and sandwiches him up against a car. Down he goes, and he's got like broken ribs, broken wrists. So yeah, like, so he's like done. Now we're there. He's our bus driver. So Rick Lee was coaching our team, and Rick says, okay, now what are we going to do? We're like, we've got to play in Spruce Pine, North Carolina. And it was way up in the Blue Ridge Mountains, like in this windy road up these mountains. And everyone's kind of sitting there looking at each other. And I said to Rick, well, I could drive this bus. Like, he goes, really? I said, oh, I'm a farm boy. This is like just, like driving a big grain truck, right? It was an older bus, and it was diesel, 4-speed, and it was not. And he goes, okay, you sure? I said, yeah, I'm sure. So away we go. And I'm driving the bus. And of course, the guys on there, they're all like, okay, like, can this guy really drive a bus, or you just say that? So we get to the point where we got to wind up the mountain. And all I could say, guys, is it was so crazy. Like, the bus would barely make the turns around, like on the road. And when we got up to the arena and I pulled up and stopped the bus, like literally I sunk my head down on the steering wheel, just like, and I was like a nervous wreck. And then as the guys were walking off, they're all like tapping me on the shoulder. Way to go, Blosk. Way to go. Good job. Good job. And I must have sat there for a good 5 minutes after everyone was off the bus. And
the adrenaline was pumping.
Oh, Rick Lee comes up and he goes, are you okay? And I go, yeah. He goes, you're starting tonight, right? I kind of thought I was, yeah.
Talk about white knuckle driving.
Oh, it was scary. And then after the third period, we won that night. And Rick Lee comes in, he goes, I got good news. And I said, what? And we had to go back down, and I think we were going to be staying in, like, going on to Winston-Salem that night, I think, and that's where our hotels were. And he'd got the Pine Bridge Bucks bus driver was going to drive our bus down. He was going to drive it down the mountain till we got to the interstate, and then I'd take over. So,
I bet you didn't get any kind of bonus for driving, eh?
I think I did. Actually,
Really?
I think when we got back, if I remember correctly, I got an envelope with a couple $100 in it. I think.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, for doing it. But oh yeah, but even yeah, it was pretty crazy. But guys, I'm forgetting a part of that story. So they're trying to scramble around trying to get a bus driver, right? Can't get a bus driver. So I said, well, I'll drive on to the next place. I'll do it. And at some point in there, we got pulled over by the cops.
Mhm.
That cops pull over, and I'm like, holy geez. So I open the door and I get out. Trooper comes up and he goes, okay. He goes, you've got no tail lights. And it was an older bus. I said, really? He goes, nope. And he goes, do you think you've got flash? I wonder if the flashers are working. So I tried the flashers and they were working. And then he goes, can I see your license? And I get out and I got a Saskatchewan driver's license.
Yeah.
And I pull it out and I go, yeah, here, Saskatchewan. He goes, and he looks at it and he goes, and this qualifies you for operating a bus? I said, oh yeah, right there you could see right there. And he was like, oh, okay, yeah. And I was just pointing to a motorcycle endorsement number or something, right? He goes, oh, okay. Well, listen, he goes, just run with your flashers during the night hours. That was it. Let us go.
So after a game like that, you're going down to Salem to spend the night.
Yeah.
Are you guys like immediately going to the bar or trying to get beers on the way? Like, I'm not, like, let's say that you had the bus driver and everything was copacetic.
Yes.
Like, are you guys?
So, I'll tell you about my first road trip in Utica. So really, sort of my first ever road trip in pro hockey, and in that league. And of course, you got younger, a lot of older guys, right? And I remember being shocked because the thing was, oh, where are we going to stop? We're going to stop here. And they stop at some sort of a truck stop, 7-Eleven type of place. And all the guys are coming on with just cases of beer. And I was like, wow, that's crazy. Big poker games going on in the back of the bus. And yeah, it would get a little crazy.
And are the boys getting shittered after a game?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And that was not the case as like I moved up like in the American League. It was nothing like that. It was pretty tame, but down in the East Coast League, then it was kind of the Wild West. And all the veteran guys would always say, all roads lead to the East Coast League. That's what they would say. So,
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you remember, Mike, but when we played together, we played one game in Eston. I think it was game 2 of the 3-game series against Eston for the league championship. I think that was provincial championship. But then we had to drive all night to Tisdale, which is on the other side of the province, for the game 2 of the league championship.
Yeah.
And so we drove all night from Eston to Tisdale, and Art, the coach, says, okay, you guys got to take it easy. We got another. He might as well have been talking to a wall because I don't know if you remember, but there was probably about half a dozen guys who were just absolutely shit-faced by the time we got to Tisdale. And they're hanging out the windows and yeah, so
it gets pretty crazy. The one thing on the bus that the Utica had was they had bunks. They had sleeping bunks. And there wasn't enough for everybody. So usually the veterans got them, or you could trade off. But I being a young guy and being the goalie, I never got one. I always got the sort of the seats that faced each other and you could kind of stretch out. And the guys would always, I remember one time a couple of guys, they're like, Richard Suick was one of them. And he said to me, he goes, oh, just come back and play some poker with us. I said, I don't know how to play poker. And I go, oh, come back here, we'll teach you. $700 or $800 later, you'll have the game down pat.
Yeah.
At one point, I think it was Rick Lee. He put a kibosh on the gambling, He said, you guys can play for fun, but no more playing for money. Because, all of a sudden, you strip a guy of $500 or something.
Yeah, guys are owing each other, and it can cause friction, I guess.
It causes friction, yeah. So, and then
That's very. Go for it.
Oh, one other time, the guys, and it was on our way home, and it was during the Christmas season, and the guys stole a Christmas tree out of a convenience store. And they were already shittered, and they were like, and then the cops pulled the bus over, and Rick Lee had to explain this. It was, yeah. He explained it away, though.
Well, you got to remember, Rick Lee was a player. Oh, he played a long time, so I'm sure he's seen his share of hijinks.
Oh yeah, he knew the drill.
Yeah.
And, another funny story I shouldn't tell. We had a guy, Bruce Gregg, and Bruce was like, I don't know, he was like 6'5", 240 or 50 pounds, and he was a scary guy. Scary, if you can find him in the stats. And he had a DUI, and he was playing down in, I think he was playing in Winston-Salem, and he had a DUI.
What was his name? Sorry, what was his name? I'll look him up.
Bruce Gregg.
Two G's. 2 G's.
You gotta sniff with the Seals.
Yes. Bruce Gregg had played with the Seals. Yeah.
Oh.
And anyways, he was in a lot of trouble. He had been in a lot of trouble down there with the law too. And then Rick Lee, we needed some toughness, and I don't know how, but anyways, Rick Lee made a deal for him, and he came to Utica. Well, so we're on our way, and we're just getting close to the arena. And obviously someone tipped him off, and this is, we're pulling into Winston-Salem. And police car pulls right up behind us as we pull into the parking lot at the arena. Rick Lee gets off, and he goes, Bruce, stay in your bunk. I'll go talk to him. And so we got the windows open, and we're listening. Rick Lee goes, the guy goes, trooper goes, is Bruce Gregg on there? And Rick goes, no. He goes, he actually didn't make the trip. And then the guy goes, okay. He goes, I'm going to ask you one more time. And he goes, if I come on there and Bruce Gregg's on there, you'll probably be going to jail too. Rick Lee turns back and goes, Bruce, get out here.
When you guys were in Utica, or I mean, even when you guys were playing together, and even in the AHL, I'm sure there's a level of local celebrity, but did you get away? Like, did the police know who you guys were, and like that's small town in the sense of small town? Like, I mean, my dad and his buddies, like, the cops knew everybody, and when they were playing hockey, if there was something that was, hey, fellas, move along.
Well, I know of a story that I heard from a friend of some guys in a gentleman's club. And
I knew a guy who knew a guy who knew a guy.
You knew a guy. Heard the story from a friend. And the police came and raided the place. There was a lot of stuff going on there. And the guys in there were innocent. They didn't, but one of the officers was a hockey fan, and everyone was having to pull out their ID and everything, and he walked this particular guy and two other guys to the door where they had a couple of police making sure nobody went out. And he said, I know these guys.
Yeah, old Robert Redford.
and they're not supposed to be here. Yeah. So I know, and I did have another incident one time with a neighbor of mine in Utica. And it was funny because and the police showed up. We were having a backyard party, and it really was nothing wrong with it, but I just had this nosy neighbor lady who called the police on, for everything. And so she calls and police show up, and it's a guy that I know. And I said, Joe. I said, hi. And he goes, hi, Mike. He goes, I said, well, come on in. I said, have something to eat. And he was like, oh, sorry, it's not a social visit. He goes, lady across the street complaining, said there was noise, and she thinks that there's a house full of perverts. And he started laughing, right? And I guess the reason, so he went over to talk to her, and I guess is because he saw, a bunch of young ladies, women, not girls, but ladies coming over, and all these people. And she said, there's a house full of perverts. But yeah, she liked to call me the cops on me every couple of days. Mostly it was because my car was too loud, but yeah.
What kind of car?
Those young whippersnappers.
Had a 911 Porsche.
No.
Made a little bit of noise when I started it.
What year?
79 wide body. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Cool car. Yeah.
Thanks.
Probably my favorite car ever. Yeah.
What happened to it?
I ended up selling it. I just was moved on to something else and sold it. And it was a funny story. I bought it off of a lawyer who was being disbarred. So I got it kind of at a bargain price. Yeah. I don't know what the story was, but
You had to pay Guido off.
yeah, it was a cool car. But Utica is a pretty interesting little city, eh? Like there's a lot of history there.
Yeah, it has a big hockey history. Like I think the Canucks at one time had their farm team there.
Yeah, in Utica. Yeah, they did at one point.
Wasn't it before? It was before Abbotsford.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, a long time ago. Yeah.
But also, just outside of Utica was Clinton, and it was the Clinton Comets there. And a lot of when I was in Utica, a lot of people I knew that were like a little bit older than me, they had all worked as extras on the movie Slapshot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they like in the Utica arena and in the arena in Clinton as well. So that's a lot of the filming was done in Utica.
When Slapshot was 77, I think, when it was released. When you saw that, when you first saw that, was it like, oh yeah, that's what it looked like, felt like? Obviously they're playing it up a little bit, but was it pretty reminiscent of the travel and stuff?
Yes. Yeah, it actually was. The travel was brutal.
Yeah, well, we did. In my experience, we didn't have the booster bus following us. We had the fans on the bus with us.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So a little bit different that way, but yeah, it's the crazy stuff that went on, the violence and the craziness. It's pretty accurate, actually.
When I think of some of the crazy games in the East Coast League, and when you say like the violence of the games and stuff, like, man, I mean, now you'd be put in prison.
Mm-hmm.
When I think of junior hockey, even, I think when I played for Saskatoon Blades and Regina Pats were our arch enemies, and how many brawls we had in the warm up.
Wow.
like just like crazy stuff, right? And you just wouldn't get away with that anymore.
No, they actually instituted a rule in the Western Hockey League that the teams had to warm up separately because there was just too many brawls. Like one team would go on and warm up, and then the other team would go on and warm up.
Yeah. Oh, I remember one time the late great Bruce Gordon started his Western hockey career. He's a Saskatoon boy. Played AAA midget for Saskatoon Blazers, and then went and played for Medicine Hat. And he was a tough guy. I wouldn't want to ever say who I thought was the toughest guy ever. But if you said, well, who are the 10 toughest guys in no order, he's for sure in there of guys that I ever played hockey with. And he played for Medicine Hat. And somewhere in there, Saskatoon Blaze, again, we needed a little bit of toughness, and they made a deal for him and got him to Saskatoon. He ended up being the captain. But
so he's a 17-year-old, probably 17, 18.
no, he would have been 18 then, 18 or 19 when he came to Saskatoon. And I remember we were now playing Regina, and he just took a puck and went in like during the warm up and took a shot at their goalie. and and there was Garth Butcher and Crawford. There was some pretty Al Tour. They had some tough guys there, but he wasn't afraid of any of them, man.
He knew his role.
Oh yeah, he was a tough guy.
Did the goalie stop the shot?
No, he scored. our first game he joined Saskatoon Blades in the warm up. He was do you guys remember a guy named Ray Houle played for Lethbridge? And he was a tough guy. And I think in his off season he rode bulls. And I don't even know how, it was just kind of stupid. And he came by, him and I had a little bit of a feud going from the game before, and he stuck me in the back of the leg and Gordy, he just came along, dropped the gloves, and man, they just went at it. He was a no nonsense guy. Yeah.
You gotta think, I mean, you guys played in the era, I mean, just the number of farm kids that would have been playing in the dub.
Yeah.
There were some tough boys, man.
There were some tough guys. Everyone always knows how tough Wendell Clark was, right? When he played. I mean, Wendell is just tough. But his older brother, Don, who was bigger and meaner and just grumpy, right? He was, he didn't have Wendell's skills, but he had all the toughness. And the younger brother too, Kerry, who had, pretty good career in the American Hockey League.
Yes, I remember he would do the moonwalk every time he scored.
Oh man, and he'd fight anybody. He'd fight 3 times a game, if whatever, right? There were some tough guys. I was from Saskatoon. That was Kelly Chase, another guy.
Well, I just got to show you a picture here because it reminds me of something here. This is us. It's you in the middle, and I'm 2 men to your left there.
Yeah.
You can tell I just finished playing because my pads are wet.
Have a bun, Jerry. Eat a bun, Jerry.
No, I was all sweaty, so I just slicked it all back a la Mike Keenan anyway. But do you remember the third goalie? Do you remember his name?
No, sorry.
Yeah, Kevin Carver. He was a really good guy, but I think he played 1 or 2 games for us that year, but he really wanted to be on in the picture. So he drove all the way from Regina just to come in to be in the picture.
In the picture.
Yeah. And if you look at the top row, I think the second guy in from the left, that is Neil Clark, who is
Neil.
Don Clark and Wendell Clark's cousin. Yeah.
Well, you know what Wendell Clark's dad used to always say? He said Neil probably had more skills than Wendell.
Really?
Just remember Neil's sort of lackadaisical way?
Yeah.
I mean, he had skills, that guy, man. I mean,
he did. He was a great defenseman. Yeah.
He was unbelievable. And so, of course, never to diminish Wendell, how great he was. But for me growing up with those guys, you're gonna be like, yeah, you know what? Like if Neil didn't have Wendell's crazy aggression, right?
That's right. Yeah, he was a very laid back, nice guy.
Nice guy.
Yeah.
But I mean, Wendell was a great, nice guy, awesome guy.
Mhm.
But when he got on the ice, it was like he developed a personality disorder.
Yeah, the switch turned on.
Just nuts, right?
And I just got to mention one other thing too before we get any hate mail. We do realize that symbol on our chest is offensive now, but back then it just was a different. And we didn't relate the two. We didn't relate the Confederate flag to slavery. It was just a Southern thing. So so before you start sending us hate mail, they have changed the logo since. And so don't send us hate mail and no death threats, please.
Yeah,
What are they called?
We've been through enough.
Yeah.
What are they called now again?
Well, they're still called the Southern Rebels, but they have a different logo. It's I think it's like a Kentucky Colonel.
Oh,
One of them anyway, and then they have another one too. So yeah,
something a little softer, like the Southern Rabbits or something.
Yeah. Yeah, really.
Having spent some time in the South, the U.S., of course, you guys don't like anything political on this show, but there was just so if I had a day off or something, like I was to a few sites where there had been big Civil War battles and stuff, and the crazy, like the history, it makes me sad sometimes that some of that history is getting erased. That's all I'll say.
Mhm.
No politics on this show.
Well, we do have a rule, but it's more of a guide.
Is it being erased or is it being clarified in context?
Yeah.
Well, all I can say is slavery bad, very bad, racism bad. So anyway,
I bet you
Southern cooking very good.
Yes, I love Southern cooking. Mm-hmm. So Craig wanted to ask you something. Craig, you want to ask your question about where Mike is sitting?
Oh, nice segue. Thanks for the setup. That signature. Tell me about this throne you're in.
Yeah, it's a beauty, isn't it? I wish you guys could see the whole thing down on the armrest here. It's got lions' heads.
Well, we'd rather have you off camera and just look at the chair.
A very dear friend of mine who passed away some years ago gave this to me, and his name was Earl Campbell, and he was a heck of a good guy, and yeah.
Well, can you just stand up and go off to the side so we can just see more of it there for a sec? Yeah.
Oh, you guys!
Yeah.
That's throne like.
Yeah.
That is crazy.
Hang on, maybe here. Just hold on.
Oh wow! Oh, nice! Wow!
Yeah.
Holy cow!
It's pretty cool.
That is
nice. As a 6'3" guy, anything with a high back that you can put your head back on, I'm a fan of.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was 6'3", and then I shrunk to about 5'9".
Yeah. Yeah. Craig's 6'3", flat on his back. So, oh man, yeah. So, yeah, time to get into the heaviness of our program today. So, October is officially Breast Cancer Awareness Month, but we're just going to say Cancer Awareness Month because we've all been affected by cancer in different ways. And Tone, do you have anything you want to say about cancer that have you been affected by personally?
Fuck cancer.
Cancer, yeah. Have you lost anybody?
Yeah, my grandfather on my mom's side passed of colon cancer. My aunt on my same side has recovered from breast cancer, and have a pal that passed of lung cancer. They don't do parades for anything to do with lung cancer. So Richard was a heck of a fella. Yeah, I mean, I think everybody across the board that in some shape or form has been affected by that. So that's fuck cancer is right.
Yeah, no, that's one of the best hashtags going, and I, every time I see it, because I wrote about it I keep saying I wrote about it in the book, but I lost my best friend Randy when I was 14. He was 16, and he was the brother that I never had. We were always together, and like for those 2 years. And when did I meet him? I met him when I was 11. So 11 through 14, 3 years, and I was completely unaware that he had cancer. They wouldn't tell me because they thought I was too young to figure it out, and they just thought I would react badly to it. And they were right. I would have. If they had told me, I would have just gone nuts, And also, my mother-in-law, my wife's mother, died of lung cancer. She was a longtime smoker. She suffered from schizophrenia, and I saw a show that said that the vast majority of schizophrenics are smokers, and for some reason that the brain wants that, whatever smoking provides. So she had suffered badly from my wife could tell you horror stories of the childhood she had, and so she had been cured by the time that I came around, and she was a very nice lady, and she liked me better than Kathleen. But we lost her, and this is my beloved sister Marlene, who we lost in 2005. I can't believe it's been 19 years, almost 20 years since we lost her. She died at the age of 50, 2 months before her first grandchild was born. It took me 5 years before I could talk about her, because it was always right there under the surface. No matter what I was doing or where I was or who I was talking to, that emotion was just right under the surface. I mean, I could not shake it, and it took me 5 years to be able to talk about her. So anyway, so that's my story, and Mike, this is I almost regret having to ask you about it, but how cancer has affected your life.
Yeah, it's affected me in pretty heavy way. I lost my dad to cancer. Lost my best friend Don Clark, Wendell's older brother, to cancer. But the hard one was lost a daughter to cancer, and
Well, tell us about your 3 children, because you have 3 daughters, right?
Yes. Well, Clarissa, I have 3 daughters and a son. My son Josh is 31, and Clarissa is 30, and so they're like 14 months apart. And then I had another set of kids, Sarah, who passed away from cancer, and Reese. And Reese now just is in her first year of university in Saskatoon. So all great kids, and I guess like with Sarah, when she was 15, she started having some issues, and it started with headaches, and to not go into all the details, but it ended up she had a rare cancer called myelodysplastic disorder, and it kind of mimics leukemia. Most of the time, first thing they think is, oh, it must be leukemia. Yeah. But at Children's Hospital, they'd never seen a person this young with this disease.
How old was she?
She was 15 when she was first diagnosed with it, and they thought that it just sometimes it just lingers a long time, and usually it was in women in their late 20s. And yeah, it got worse and worse and worse, and in the end they thought that they would do a bone marrow transplant, was sort of a last resort, but they had to kill off her bone marrow first to get it, and she just didn't survive it. So
Mhm.
it was devastating for us, and we aside, not myself, but Sarah's mom and the other kids. It's a devastating thing, and you don't, like, the old saying about time heals all wounds. Well, this is one. It doesn't heal. It's there every minute of the day, every day. It's just yeah, and it's you know sometimes people would say that phrase. I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy, and I literally would not wish losing a child on anybody. It's the one thing you just can't, and even for myself, my dad was, healthy. We thought my dad would be with us for a long time, and into his 90s or something, because he was healthy and fit and that, and you know had a vicious stomach ache one day, went to the hospital, they did some tests, pancreatic cancer, and he was gone in like 25 days.
Oh my
What?
goodness.
So, and yeah, and that was hard to take, right? Like it was devastating, but um I love my dad more than anything, but it was nothing like losing Sarah.
Mhm.
So I shouldn't say nothing like it, but it was, that you can, you can sort of rationalize it in a sense, okay, my dad's in his 70s, he's had a pretty good life, but when,
Your your kids are never supposed to go before you.
no,
Mhm.
no, it was difficult. And when you see how hard it was on my other kids, like they're never going to be the same. you know um Sarah died in 2017, and my kids are still, they not recovered it. And you can have grief counseling, and you can do all these things, but it never goes away, right?
Mhm.
How long was
So,
her treatment?
Well, about the last year of Sarah's life was spent at Children's Hospital. And Children's Hospital in Vancouver did an unbelievable job. Like they even at one point, a doctor came from Sweden,
Wow.
and they just could not, like, because they just hadn't seen it, right, like that. And yeah, it was the full marks to them. It's a great place to get behind, but it's I guess the only thing to say is, like, no kid should have to go through that, right? And
mhm.
as a dad, you always think you're you can protect them, you can guide them, you could, uh, but all of a sudden you're in this position where there's nothing you can do. You
Mhm.
Powerless.
And you would give
powerless,
anything to trade places with them.
anything, right?
Yeah.
And even on a personal side, I was mad. I was always a believer in God. I still am, but man, I was mad at him, right? I still am. Sometimes my girlfriend will say to me, "Hey, ease up on him," right? And
Mhm.
I said,
Mhm.
"Well, I offered him a whole bunch of real good deals, and he didn't take any of
Mhm.
them." Right?
Mhm.
And
So
yeah, and I know that's not how it works, but you
yeah.
know,
So
um,
uh, tell me if this is too much for you, but what was Sarah like? What
oh,
did she like? What did she do? What did she?
she asked a lot of questions.
Mhm.
She um, she loved to do things like, I remember when my mom taught her how to make pierogies, right? And she was just your typical teenage girl as she got older. She loved dogs, and she loved going to the beach, and she loved all those things. And uh, like little girls, she wanted to be a singer one day. She says, maybe I'll be like Britney Spears. You know? And yeah, we just, we miss her so much. And here was the thing she loved. She loved for me to tell her stories. And I would tell her stories about when I moved away, when I was, had to go and, live away from home when I was 15 years old to play hockey and stuff like that. And um, she was pretty amazing. And one of the great things, because, my kids weren't around in my hockey days, but when Don Clark got married back home, and he, sort of a childhood sweetheart, Sarah would have been 12, I guess. And we all went back to Greenwater Lake, and Donnie had his wedding there, and it was sort of like a hockey reunion too then. And Wendell Clark taught her how to water ski. Is that what- yeah. She got to water ski. So, just all those things you remember about your kids, right? And
Did she skate?
yeah, she skated, but um she liked skating, but she wasn't great at it. And she liked whenever we traveled to Saskatchewan, she loved to stop in Drumheller at the Dinosaur Museum.
Nice.
Yeah, so, but you try to sort all that stuff out in your head, right? And you can't make any sense of it, and you gotta just go on, right?
And there's no timeline for grief.
No.
Grief is gonna be on your plate and your entire family, extended family's life forever.
Yeah.
And
whenever we have a family gathering, there's a huge black hole. Like whenever we get together, there's just this kind of infinite sadness that it permeates the place, because even though we joke and we laugh and our family dynamic is still basically the same, there's just that overhanging cloud, and that'll never ever go away, and until we see her again. So
and that's I know, like I'm not in a relationship with Sarah's mom. We hadn't been for years, and the girls lived with, primarily with me. But one of the things that they always did was Christmas Eve, they would spend with their mom, and they would, she'd always get them new pajamas and stuff. They had this ritual that they went through all the time. And, it's, the other girls said to me the other day, they said, wouldn't it be nice if we could just have Sarah just for one more Christmas, right?
Yeah.
Like you said, you would trade everything you have just for a couple minutes with them, and it's hard.
Well, thanks, Mike, for sharing your story. It's super important, and I will, and I'm sure Craig will too. We're going to make a donation to BC Children's Hospital, for the cancer ward, because I was reading up on it today, and children's cancer is seriously underfunded. Like it is incredible how little funding they get, and so I wish I could donate a huge amount. I won't be able to, but we're gonna donate in honor of Sarah and Marlene, my sister, and Craig's relatives there that have passed. So
that would be great, guys, because we you can't donate to everyone, and we're our family too. Like for myself, we've got down to that's the place that we donate our money to, and you know, like I said, they never stop trying for her, you know.
Mhm.
And you know, it's I guess one other thing I wanted to say was it it behooves me sometimes, you know. We we travel in space. We the amount of money that is spent on other things, and I truly believe that from knowing some people in the medical field and that are pretty smart people and are researchers, that they say, you know, cancer is something that if we just keep throwing money at it, we're going to solve it, because it's sort of the research costs money. And so some days when you see you know, I know we don't like to be political, but when the world, I'll just say, has to shoot down 300 missiles, um, and those missiles all cost $1 million each, and they're doing it day after day after day, and the
Mhm.
things that all this money is spent on,
Mhm.
it could make it could be
Well,
spent in a lot better place.
the U.S. spent $300 million I think it was a day, fighting the Afghan war,
Yep.
something crazy like that. So, you know, their defense budget is $750 billion. You know, and it's, you know, if they didn't have to do that, you know, how much of that money could go to cancer research or to ease the suffering somewhere in the world? I mean, it's
I think
it's just mind-boggling.
whether it be cancer or Alzheimer's or any kind of any kind of disease that, I mean, around the world, the other aspect to that is the communication and sharing of information that just isn't there as well. That there's, I mean, that doctor coming from Sweden, the what Sweden's doing as a country, or what that hospital is going, and that research I don't think it's too bad that everybody isn't on the same page and going towards that direction, because you have to you imagine the amount of the billions of dollars that are being spent around the world independent of
Yeah.
each other, you know.
Yeah.
And
And you know, Tone, that's not even, you know, a person could touch off a little bit on the thing. You'd say, well, you know, the unbelievable amount of money that the drug companies make, and yes, a lot of drugs help with
Insane.
cancer, but then you have to think, well, you can't help but, like, I know for myself, I can't help but dive into that conspiracy theory of, well, maybe they don't want to cure it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe
Yeah,
maybe they just maybe
yeah,
they
because
just show little victories every now and then.
yeah, well, they make a hell of a
the
lot of
flip
money on
side
the
to that,
chemo
though,
drugs.
the flip side to that, Mikey, is if any of those companies found the cure for any type of cancer, they're going to make way more money long term coming out with a cure. I mean, I I'm not advocating for those pharmaceutical bastards, but the I think that race to cure, like that you think of the bazillions of dollars that, not digging into the whole COVID thing, but whoever came up with the those first shots, Pfizer and whatever, they made bazillions of dollars. And I think those companies that are fighting that fight, whoever crosses that line first, like from a cure standpoint, I think there's some real motivation on that side that might balance out some of that. But it's a shame. I believe they'll find a cure for some cancers in my lifetime.
Yeah,
I'm only 32.
hey guys, before I forget, I just wanted to hold up this little picture of Sarah so you guys
Nice.
could see it.
She's a beauty.
Oh, she's
Oh, great
beautiful.
spelling too.
And we had this this picture of her. This was always my favorite. Well, I had a lot of favorite pictures of when she was younger, but this was this picture here was sort of just before she got sick. So that's kind of how I always like to remember her.
Of course, yeah.
And
I know she's smiling down on you, Mike, and she would want you to be happy. So, that's how I get through the day, with my sisters and with Randy too, because Randy still appears in my dreams. Like, it's like it's been God almost 50 years since he's been gone, and but he's still there. He's still I still remember all the crazy, stupid things he used to do and the cackle he had, and I know that I'm going to see him again, and his older brother John, who kind of took me under his wing after Randy passed. I became the surrogate little brother. He just passed away a few months ago, so that whole family is now together again, and I hope to see them and my family members and I'm sure I will. I believe in the afterlife. I don't believe in a Christian God like you do. I don't want to get off on a religious tangent here, but I believe, because when Randy passed away, he had cancer and he wasted away to almost nothing, and he was so weak in the last days that he couldn't even open his eyes. And this is the story his mom told me years later, said that he couldn't even open his eyes. He was that weak. And then she's sitting in the room with him. It's just him and her. The machines are beeping away and whatnot. And she said that all of a sudden he sat up. He sat straight up and he's looking and he says, "Mom, hold me." And so she goes and she hugs him, and that's when he passed. And he was going somewhere. Like, that's my firm belief, is that he was headed somewhere. So, I think we go somewhere after this life. There's life after life. So,
Jerry, I was in the room when my dad passed, and so similar. We were waiting around, for days. My dad, it had been days since he was able to speak, or he was basically unconscious. And I had just kind of dozed off a little bit. My mom and I, we had a cot in the room, and my mom and I had the night shift that night. And I woke up and I looked over at my dad, and I had this weird, it's like a weird vision all of a sudden just came in my mind, that my dad was with my grandma, with his mom. And it was almost instantaneously, my dad had this, his whole appearance was so stressed up until then. All of a sudden he just had this complete look of peace about him. And my mom said to me, she said, I think Dad's gone. And it was just, so I
love that. I love that.
A big guy up there, I'm still a little angry at him, but there's something. I believe there's something. Yeah. So, like you said, your buddy was going somewhere.
He was going somewhere. Yeah. So, anyway, I don't want to end on on such a sad note. And now that we know that Craig's been bought off by Big Pharma, I have a couple of pictures here I want to show, and maybe you could tell the story behind them. This one that your brother sent me. Where are you?
So, look at that NHL caliber goalie right there.
That was in the warm-up in Long Island. And the guy that you just can't see there, I believe, was Tim Kerr.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
You know what, Mike? I know now why you didn't make, you didn't get a long career in the NHL. Your stick's not on the ice.
Stick's not on the
ice. So, Mike, have you seen that picture before, or do you have that? You see a picture like that and you go, I know exactly where that's at.
Yeah, I remember that particular picture. Yeah, but I'd seen it before, but that was.
Well, you had the right number. That's my favorite number of all time, 33. So I just always liked the way it looked on a jersey. So
Yeah.
That's my older brother's number.
Yeah.
Wow.
If I,
Okay.
darn it, if I could have just kept my stick on the ice.
Yeah. I've
Maybe
got
we can Photoshop that.
I've got one more here that I'd like to know a little bit about, and yeah, your brother sent me these. So, well, actually, you sent me this picture.
Oh yeah, that's
the mask.
that's in my brother's basement. Actually, he's got my masks. Yeah, and the one, the sort of goldy colored one, was a Jacques Plante mask that I bought. Oh, Doug Laurie Sports. I couldn't remember the name of it before. Doug Laurie Sports, which was a sporting goods store in Maple Leaf Gardens. That's where that mask came from. And my dad put the metal flake paint job on it for me. I designed it and he put on. And the other one, the orange and black and white one, I got that probably right when I was around 16, 17. And a guy in Saskatoon who worked building, making prosthetic legs and limbs for people at the Council for Crippled Children and Adults in Saskatoon. His name is Stan Holcomb. He made that mask for me. And that was one where I had to lay down and he put the plaster over my face and made a mold and made the mask. So
molded right to your face. Now, was it his idea or your idea to put the smile in?
I think it was my idea. Like I said, I kind of like, and he said kind of like Rogie Vachon, and I said, well, maybe not quite like Rogie's. Yeah. It was, you know, I think it looked cooler when it was all white. It had just a weird look to it when it was all white. So
yeah,
but
yeah. Well, if you remember Yuri Sirha, he had like a similar paint job, but it was horizontal, not vertical.
Yeah,
and it looked dumb.
How the heck did he ever get in the NHL?
I don't know. Toronto thought they thought they had something. But a question I want to ask you about the gold mask.
Yeah.
Did you cut the eyes? Because
yes.
I've never seen one with square eyes before.
Yeah, I did that. I took a file. And yeah, I thought, wait a minute, why does it have to be round and sort of clipping off your edges, eh? So yeah.
So you cut on. Now, did that cause any issues? Like, did you get hit in the eye or anything?
Probably. No.
How many fingers? How many fingers?
Yeah, exactly.
Because if you remember Mario Lessard, do you remember Mario Lessard?
Yes.
He had the biggest eye holes in his mask. And I thought that's crazy because you get a puck could almost fit in that. You know, like it was absolutely insane. So
let's put it this way, Teabag. Like you're like how insane. You're standing in front of these guys. They're shooting a piece of vulcanized rubber at you, like in the vicinity of 100 miles an hour, and you're crouching down yet.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. Well, that's how stupid I am. Is I enjoyed it.
Yeah, exactly.
I said, that, when old timers hockey became a thing and they took the slap shots out, I hated that. Like I enjoyed the challenge of a guy winding up from 20 feet and facing him down and stopping him. Like that was my biggest thrill in life.
You're not rolling a molded piece of like those molded masks that you guys have were how thick? Half an inch?
Not even.
And then brace for impact.
Yeah.
Like absolutely. You guys are wired in a different way than most people.
I've always said it. You're born to be a goalie. I mean, I always felt that way. I always felt I was born to be a goalie. I was born to do this, and yeah, I loved it. And when when I'm talking about old timers hockey and they took the slap shots out, I said it's like playing baseball and you're only allowed to bunt. Like come on. It takes an element out of the game and kind of bastardizes it. It's just like so. And the thing that drove me nuts was that nobody was afraid to go to the net. So what would happen is guys would get the puck to the net and then everybody would crash. And it's just like you got like 10 guys in the crease with you and you're battling for every inch trying to find the damn biscuit. And so that used to frustrate me to no end. I hated it. I hated playing no slap shot hockey. So.
Yeah. Hey, Jerry, I want to ask you this question because I always thought this, but was it not the greatest? Like I was sort of one of those guys, a little bit like Jerry Cheevers, I think. I didn't really care about my stats too much. What I cared about was winning, right? Like I cared about how many wins I had. I didn't care about if my goals against was 3 or 4 or whatever it was. I wasn't big on that. But always for me, it was that immediate feeling when the buzzer went at the end of the game and you'd won. And the guys would come off the bench and come toward you and tap you on the pads. But that elation, just as the buzzer went, and you're like, wow, that was always for me the biggest thrill. That was.
Now, did you play for the Moose Jaw Generals?
Hold on, you don't answer a question with a question. He asked you a question.
Well, yeah. Well, okay, sorry. What was the question? Like, the wins way more important than anything else. But I got to say, I did keep track of my stats. I always did. I just had a kind of a perverse pleasure in having the best goals against average, kind of thing. But by and large, I wouldn't have cared as long as we had a winning team. And like some of my best memories, that's why I'm asking you about the Moose Jaw Generals, because one of my favorite memories is beating the Moose Jaw Generals when they were at their peak and the score was 10-9. So that's one of my favorite memories, even though I let in 9 goals, we won, so it didn't really matter in the big scheme of things. I wasn't, but I did keep track for sure.
I did play with Moose Jaw. I went to play with them and we played in, little place, just part of Winnipeg. Had a pretty good team, and one of the Hull boys was playing on the team.
Dennis?
No, not Dennis. No, not Brett. Who was the younger brother? Younger than Brett?
Oh, Bart.
Bart
Played football.
Yeah, and one of the. But I can't. That was all fog. But yeah, I remember one time though, in a game in Utica, actually, we got scored. We were winning like 3-0, and gave up a goal with like 20 seconds left in the game. I remember this. It was a lady reporter, and she was asking me. She goes, "Are you upset about not getting the shutout?" I said, "Oh," I said, "Not really." I said, "Shutout." I said, "What do you do with it after?" I said, "Like you can't even take it home with you." It's like,
yeah.
I said, "It didn't really." She goes, "Really?" She goes, "You're not?" And I said, "No." I said, as long as we won.
I always viewed shutouts as a team thing. I never took it as me. I did this. Because you don't do it alone. You can only play as well as the team in front of you. So if you get a shutout, the whole team did it, not just me. You
got a stay-at-home defenseman block 20 for you.
Yeah, you got a 6'3" oak tree. It was like a 10-foot hole in the ice that the other team has to account for. Yeah. Kevin Tendler, he was like that. Yeah, for sure.
He blocked a lot of shots.
He did, man.
He just seemed to go off his shins, toes, kneecap. Yeah.
He always seemed to know where to be. Yeah.
That is a great feeling as a defenseman blocking somebody's shot.
Oh, yeah. Big shin pads. He had the thickest shin pads I'd ever seen. It must have been 4 inches thick. Yeah.
Goalies, I think, are the only person on a team that I think gets to be a little bit selfish about the W, because like as a defenseman, I don't think I beat everybody on that team. Whereas I think a goalie, you guys go one-on-one against everybody else on that team, potentially one-on-one, mano a mano. And I think goalies, I think from a win standpoint is a little, there's something a little bit deeper, and both of you guys alluded to it. That
oh, nice. Hey, kitty.
Sanjay.
I thought that was a feather you were putting in front of the camera. It was a tail. Okay. So, no, I'm sure like Mike feels the same way, but in pretty much every game, this is hard for me to say because I'm a pretty modest guy. I don't like to brag about myself, but when I was playing, pretty much every game that I played, I felt I was the best player on the ice. I always felt that way. Like I've had this self-confidence that I just have it. I don't know where it comes from. I just accept it because it's just
you
there.
were never cocky. You know? Like
no, I've never been a cocky guy. I don't talk about myself a whole lot, but that's how I felt inside my own head. I'm just cocky as hell. So I don't know. Are you the same, Mike?
Yeah, and you know what? I did not like to credit my opponent. Like I get scored on, and immediately the second I was scored on, that microsecond, I knew what I should have done. I already had flipped it over in my mind and knew what I could have done to make the save, right?
Yeah.
So people say, "Oh, well, that was pretty good." Well, or people, or I was also like, if you'd just be getting bombarded, right? You know, and you'd have a reporter say to you after, "Wow, were you faced so many shots, right?" You know, and I'd be just like, "Yeah, well, you know what? That's my job is to stop the puck, whether there's 20 or 30 or 50 or whatever, right? That's what we're there for. That's our job."
Yeah.
I never really got upset with the team, you know, if we were giving up a lot of shots on goal or we were
No, and I think Tone can attest that I never gave the defenseman the glare. You know, like if I got scored on, I never, would look up and go, "What the hell are you doing?" You know, like I never blamed anybody else but myself. Oh, that was, and I hate that when goalies get scored on, they look at their defenseman and they raise their hands like, "What?" Dude. Accept it and say,
I did bring out the score. I just turned the scoreboard to you. If you had done that to me.
Yeah, right.
Well, Mikey, hey, listen, I just want to say thanks for spending all this time with us. It's been a pleasure, absolute treat.
It's a lot of fun, guys. Hey, we have to, and I'm not just saying this, but we've got to get together and have a few beers together, you guys.
Yes. No doubt.
It's ridiculous. It's not like we're like a continent away. We're only short drives away. So
on that boat.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
On the boat. Yeah. So that's the thing. It's great. Great. So somebody said to me, a boat is a hole in the water you pour money into. And then he said, don't ever own a boat. Have a friend who owns a boat. So
absolutely.
So Craig and I got the best of the world.
Best of it now.
Okay, Mike, thanks so much for
great talking to you guys again.
And even though we failed to make Craig cry, but we'll try again one day.
Guys, what was a nice thing about this is that I really appreciate it because sometimes it's good for me too and good for my head to talk a little bit about it.
Damn straight.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah.
Appreciate it. And thanks for that. I really appreciate that.
I appreciate you guys. All right.
Okay.